Hey guys, how's it going? Here's a little update of what's going on with the car. Got the transmission ready to install, the S5 tranny. It's all cleaned up, fully topped off with fluid. Got the transmission bracket installed onto the transmission, besides the actual bracket that mounts to the subframe. There's that little spring I was talking about that holds the actual shifter to the bracket on the internal section. Touched up all the bolts so they're all nice and zinc coated. Looks nice all the way around. They're all matching. Looks like brand new transmission, which it kind of is because it only has like 90,000 miles on it. I wish the person that owned the car that this transmission came out of was more their weekend little car that they took to the golf course, so they probably didn't beat the crap out of it either. Here's what the other side looks like. Went through, installed the new differential. That shitty lighting. Installed the differential. Painted it all up. Painted the actual transmission mount that I welded up. Painted that gold. Did the control arms. Matched those gold too. And the only thing that annoyed me, I filled this up with fluid, waited almost an hour before I installed it, and right after I installed it, it started leaking. But it's not too bad, it's just an $11 seal. And according to the actual dealership manual that I have, it's easier to leave this inside the car, because then you can just put your parking brake on, remove this bolt, pop the flange off, replace the seal, tighten it all back up, and you're good to go. I got pretty much almost all the control arms completely painted, besides the back half section over there, just because I didn't want to disassemble everything and get overspray on everything, so I just went that far. But the passenger side wheel bearing is completely shot. I got so much play inside of it, so that's shot. And I bought this back bearing and that bearing in a pair, so I'm pretty sure if that one's shot, this one's not too far behind. So I'm going to buy a new set of JD or OEM freaking bearings that are made in Japan. Not these freaking piece of crap ones that were supposed to be for a Ford Focus, but part numbers match up. So I'm not going to get a set of these, I'm going to get OEM ones. And then when I do that, I'm going to remove all that, replace the wheel bearing, take the actual hub off, and the carrier and all that stuff, try to clean it all up because it's aluminum, and if I can't make it look shiny again, then I'll just paint it silver. But also there's a spherical bearing inside here that's like a Heim joint bearing. This is actually shot to where it actually has movement forward and back, which kind of caused the wheel bearing to go out on me. And this will be the third wheel bearing that's gone out on this side. The driver's side was still good, but when I replaced this side, I got two bearings, so I might as well do both, going off of that logic, which is a good idea. But when you get shitty bearings, you get what you pay for. So I'm going to replace those bearings and replace these with polyurethane bushings. So then this whole setup right here is going to be completely aftermarket. There's going to be no factory bushings. These seals don't leak, so I don't have to worry about these. I just got to replace that seal. That's $11. The bearings are $86. What else was it? Those bearings, or the little bushing that will go right there, is I think $40 plus 13 shipping, so it's not too bad. And then I still got to get outer tie rod ends, because I got the inner and the dust boot. I still got to get the outer tie rod ends, the lower ball joints on both sides, set of coilovers, and then the rack and pinion bushings. And then the whole front end's ready to rebuild, plus a set of coilovers, because that coilover is actually snapped in half, and I remachined it to kind of slap a band-aid on it so I can still drive the car around. It seems to be working so far, and it hasn't failed on me, but yet who knows how long it's going to last. Plus they're cheap-ass coilovers anyways. So I'm going to buy an actual set of Power by Max, not these Max speeding rods, whatever the hell they're called. Get an actual real set of Power by Max, and then never have to worry about this shit again. And then the leak I was actually having up inside here is actually coming from that rear, or that seal right there is leaking from that freeze plug, and it looks like it's kind of leaking from the rear main seal a bit. I'm not too sure. But when I get the money, I'm going to replace the flywheel, pressure plate, clutch, all this setup right here with an aftermarket Excetti Stage 1 with the single disc clutch disc on it, because this ain't really going to be pushing too much power, but I want a lighter rotational mesh so it has faster RPM pickup. So eventually I'm going to invest into all that. When I get the replacement to replace all this, then I'll go through, replace the rear main seal, and all the freeze plugs. I put a little bit of radiator stop leak inside of it to hopefully kind of seal that off, and I do not suggest anyone to do that. And if you do, just do it for the short period of time to try to like put a band-aid on whatever the hell you're trying to fix, but then after you get the parts to fix it, flush the whole system, your engine, your radiator, your heater core, flush it all out. And then you should be good. But since this is my daily driver and I kind of don't have the funds to do all this in one shot, I just got to kind of more or less slap a band-aid on it and hope to God it doesn't bite me back in the ass. Which it hasn't before, so. This is what the whole underside looks like. Got the transmission harness all wrapped up in with wire wrap and electrical tape, so it's kind of protected. Did the same thing with the starter signal, the power, and the ground. Wrapped all those up so they're protected. I still got to wrap up that tiny little section of wiring harness. And other than that, this whole wiring harness is actually completely wrapped all the way around. Just that one little section. And I either have to go up top, which would be a pain in the ass, or down here through the bottom, which would be a pain in the ass. And I tried kind of from both ways and wasn't able to get the best results. So the easiest way, when I pull the motor, that's when I'm going to actually tape it up the right way. That's sort of what everything looks like. And when I get that cross brace frame that locks in the rear subframe to the chassis more in the front one, I got to modify it to where it actually clears the exhaust system, because you can see this actually hangs down, or the exhaust system hangs down lower than this point, so I either got to modify my exhaust or modify the piece to wrap around this to then attach into this. But I'll go from here down over there, from there to down somewhere over there like an X, and then I'm going to get a Cusco bar that'll go from that point to that point right there and lock this all in, so there'll be really no chassis flex, and I'll lock the actual subframes of the car more. I already got top strut tower bracing, which I noticed a big difference off of that, so I'm pretty sure doing this stuff down here will make an even big improvement on top of what I did up top. And then when I get a welder, I'm going to go through and stitch weld all of this. Because when I first got this car, I was an idiot and I didn't know about jack placement, and I stuck the jack in too far, stuck it on these, and when I jacked it up, I pushed up my whole floor pans. I hammered my floor pans back down. And now that I got those hammered back down, this is what happened. The actual seam kind of bent up and came down a little bit. So now I got to go through, kind of hammer that back up a little bit and go through and re-tack everything. And plus, I'm also seeing a bunch of little weird things like this, like that split right there. There's a little split over there. Obviously, that big old gap, that big gap. I mean, stitch up all that. And you get weird little spots like this. There's a little gap right there. I want to stitch up all this stuff, make it stronger. Stitch up all this little bracket right here, because that's pretty much 3 pieces. You got one piece, one piece right here, you got another little piece right here. These two kind of tie together like that, and then these both wrap over this piece. So I kind of want to tie all that in. Put at least like little 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch welds all the way across and space them out like every 2 to 3 inches. I don't know if I already mentioned it to you guys, like there's little marking place, like when you go to replace your flywheel, pressure plate, or clutch setup, mainly if you keep your flywheel and you're just replacing your clutch setup, or your clutch disc, but you're still keeping your same pressure plate and your same flywheel, kind of mark it so you put it back in the same spot. Makes it a little bit easier. And also, if you're ever worried about bolts and stuff coming loose, you can go through and mark it, just to give you a general idea if any bolts are coming loose. It's kind of hard to tell on those ones, but they're marked. And then when this actual drive line blew up, it actually loosened up these bolts, shifting this whole section upwards, and it's starting to chew into my actual e-brake. So I have that marked to see if it ever moves again. If it does, then I'll have a marker let me know it moved. Some little tips. I'm gonna get ready to install this transmission. I'll get another video coming out to you guys how everything's going. Don't forget to like and subscribe.